Welcome back, everybody, and let's talk about Koleda. Now, I want to preface this by saying if you have Qingyi, Koleda and Qingyi are very interchangeable. I just think that Qingyi doesn't really have a team that wants her as much as Koleda does. Koleda works very well with Lucy, and that performs a very fine and very solid support core. Qingyi doesn't have anything like that. Yes, you have a bunch of electric characters, but Anton's a 4-star, so his damage is going to be much lower than a 5-star, usually. Grace is an anomaly character. She takes up a lot of field time and kind of replaces your stun unit anyway. So, with all that being said, let's continue. Koleda is a much more damage-oriented version of Qingyi and Lycaon. Obviously, Qingyi will get more damage if you go for cons, but she's limited, so let's consider her compared to somebody like Lycaon as the standard premier 5-star stunner. Lycaon's better. I don't want to beat around the bush with that. Lycaon is a character who I think is a great example of a support and a stunner merged. This is strictly because Lycaon reduces ice resistance, so he increases your team's ice damage. And his stun damage is quite nice. I want you to keep in mind, the stun damage multiplier that you're seeing here on Lycaon is essentially a additional bonus onto the already existing damage an enemy takes once they are fully stunned. Keeping in mind that when an enemy is stunned, they take more damage, this is a 35% increase upon that additional damage from your entire team. Think of it as 35% team damage bonus. Koleda doesn't have that. Koleda increases her own daze damage. Sure, daze is quite nice, she's stunning the enemy more frequently, but this is just a chain damage multiplier. Honestly, Lycaon's additional ability is much more beneficial than Koleda's. Qingyi also has a basically very similar ability to Lycaon. If we're going over to her here, she has a stun damage multiplier as well, and it's stacked up to 20 times, so it's basically the exact same. Qingyi also has a much more damage-oriented version of her. Koleda can't use this, or can't use it to the same effectiveness because Qingyi needs to be, essentially, she's kind of the only stun unit that can attack 30 times so quickly to stack up the passive in its full. But hey, ignoring that, let's talk about Koleda here. I do believe she's a perfectly fine stun unit. I do believe that whilst her cinemas are much more damage focused, they are very beneficial. C1, it's additional days. It's honestly, it's the equivalent to somebody like Qingyi's C2. That's it. The only difference is Qingyi has a little bit more of a value given that this stun damage multiplier is quite nice. It's just the days damage dealt, and the days dealt is an increase overall. Beyond that, every one of Koleda's additional passives is just, hey, do you want more energy to do more skills? Hey, do you want more damage for your skills? Hey, do you want more damage for your skills? All of these is just more damage. She becomes much more of a DPS, whereas Qingyi becomes a DPS after being a buffer with C1 and C2, and Lycaon, he's just very good as a universal support. Also, I just want to say that Koleda, in my opinion, has the worst wallpaper. Like, I'm a Nekomata player. I love Nekomatas. Everyone else in this game has a very cute, nice wallpaper. Even Korin, great. Even Anby, great. Koleda just does not look like, it doesn't look natural. It just looks so stiff and really lazy, in my opinion. So she has the worst one, just to let you know. But she does have very cute relationship stories. Now, beyond that, should you build her? Honestly, yeah. I think fire-based units as of right now are good. Koleda can work with Soldier 11. She can work with Lucy. That's just a very fine support core. If you're going into just any content, you can slap these two together and you're set. Lucy is an amazing supportive unit for that attack buff and crit damage later on. You can pair her with Nekomata, you can pair her with anybody. Now, Koleda does, in my opinion, require a little bit more investment than other characters. First off, her basic attack needs to be leveled up, in my opinion, because she wants to use an enhanced basic. Essentially, you're using a basic a couple of times into a skill. So these two need to be leveled up. Her chain attack is a given. Every character wants that. Her dodge, I don't think it's that necessary. Yes, she can do a twirl afterwards, which does do daze damage, so I can understand you wanting to actively do more damage with this. But even her assist is a parry. That parry is more daze damage. So I will say she needs a little bit more investment because her basic is a little bit more important than other stun units. Lycaon is a fine example, but I think Lycaon does more universally, so I can kind of understand that. If we're talking about A to F, look, I'm going to be blunt here, this doesn't matter. Yes, I would say that obviously you can focus on getting this up strictly for the daze damage increase and the daze overall she's dealing. I understand that's important, but the worst part about this is that as stunners, these additional core skill enhancements aren't that good. You're only going for the passive, you're not going for the 6 impact, which sucks. And once again, comparatively speaking, Lycaon's is just better, which really sucks. Now, Koleda is following a very similar build path. You want that 4-piece day set, you want to go for a 2-piece ER, because strictly speaking, her EX skill is a core part of her kit. She's not just dealing days with her basic, or like Qingyi with basic and then charge attack, or like Lycaon where you just do a bunch of basic attacks. She wants to use her skill so much that I will say you want that ER. You can go for fire damage bonus or attack percentage here, and you can focus on building her out with crits if you have the option to. You can go for Brimstone. Not Brimstone. You can go for the Restraint. You can go for Signature. Realistically, any of these work well. I would say that Anby's is a pretty competitive option. Even though the electric damage bonus isn't that useful, the energy generation rate is quite nice for you to be capable of spamming out her skill over and over and over again. Or just go for Steam Oven. It's great. I think that Koleda as a unit doesn't need to be leveled or invested into as heavily as others. Qingyi gets a lot more value because she transfers her impact into attack percentage, so you can build her out as a more DPS-oriented character, and Lycaon benefits his team actively. Koleda is solely here to stun, and that's it. I think she loses significant value because she doesn't have as big of a supportive ability as other characters, and even though she has cinemas and she has standards, those cinemas don't make her a better support, they just make her a better DPS. And if you're going for a DPS-oriented stun unit, you just invest into Qingyi, you just invest into Lycaon, because these are units who are very flexible, these are units who get a lot of value regardless of circumstance, these are just good units. Koleda having slow basic attacks doesn't really help her kit because she can't use some of the 5-star options like Qingyi. Even though the Restraint is Lycaon's is very good. The damage in days dealt by basic attacks is very nice, but it's on an 8-second cooldown, and yes, that's a decent enough cooldown here, but Koleda has very slow weaving basic attack, so Lycaon and Qingyi both get more value out of this than she does. I'd say that if you were going to invest into her, she gets significantly more value from that C1 because it just makes her a better stun unit, but I do think she loses value over time, especially as we get more supportive and more buffing capable stunners. She is, as of right, in a good position solely because Fire and Ice are the main 2 archetypes we have in the game that are very fleshed out, but with Jane Doe coming soon for physical, and with Caesar and the rest of Sons of Kil'jaeden, it's really not a good thing. Because Lucy will want to be paired with them regardless, and at that point Koleda has a better usage, yes, but for how long is the question. Good character, not as good as Qingyi, not as good as Lycaon, not as inherently necessary as somebody like Lucy or anyone else. I do think Anby is a very perfectly fine flexible option, and I do think that Anby has a better wallpaper. Do with that what you will. I'll see you next time.